You are now tuned in to According to His Purpose podcast, a space where we focus on self-love, healing, and discovering our God-given purpose. This podcast has been created for anyone that's ready to meet a new and better version of themselves. Welcome to our final episode of season 1, episode 8, Starting Over. We are at our final episode. I can't believe I have done 8 of these. Like, it has definitely been a learning experience. I'm a hands-on type of person, so I like to jump into it. So, you guys can go back and look on my YouTube channel and you can look at my videos and you can see how I've switched it up and changed it around. I've used different systems. I kind of just had to, just kind of see which one works best for me, and you can hopefully see the growth. I don't believe that you have to wait for things to be perfect. If God calls you to do something, you step out and you go for it. God says, use what you have, use what's in your hand. And that's what I've done during this season. This podcast has been listened to in 4 different countries and 43 different cities. And I thank each and every one of you that have tuned in, that have supported. There's a Buy Me a Coffee link. People have supported this financially. And I appreciate you guys. I appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate those of you that have went to Amazon and purchased some of my journals. Listen, I think it is a blessing, and I am so excited to be going into a new season, a new and more exciting season, because we got all of the housekeeping stuff out of the way in this first season. So we have guests coming in on our next season. And so you guys make sure that you are tuned in, okay? So, as promised, in this episode, I said that I will share my personal testimony. I'm about to let y'all get all up in my business, okay? Pray for me, don't talk about me. And so I'm just going to jump in and I'm just going to start telling the story. First, let me say this. For the last 2 years, I have been going through a lot of changes in life, okay? Kind of had to get back to discovering Renee, not the picture that others wanted to paint of me or the identity that others wanted to give me, but I had to get back to Renee. I felt like I had lost something. I was like, I'm a person that moved to a city by myself in my 20s. I've always had that drive. I've always had that determination. And I started to feel a little weak, like I was losing that part of me. And so I had to get back to that place of healing from a lot of the things that I had lost previously. I had one more thing in life that was stressing me out. And so for many of you that know me personally, you know that I've worked in corporate America for the last 10 years. I've started out as a seasonal employee. I got hired on in the call center, signed a 2-year contract to work in the call center. When I was working as a seasonal worker, I remember driving on the Gene Snyder to work, because if you know corporate America, that is a job that you do. They have a point system, so you can't be late. You can't be absent like within your 90 days. You have to really show, especially you're a seasonal worker, you want to get hired on, you have to have like basically perfect attendance. And so I remember driving on the Gene Snyder trying to get to work, and I was listening to Marvin Sapp. He saw the best in me when everyone else around could only see the worst in me. I remember worshiping God, and I was driving, and I was so excited because, as a single mother, as a person that started from the bottom, like I've been working since I was 15, you name it, I probably have worked there. I've worked so many jobs, and, I was like, could this be true? Like, I can't even believe that I got hired on at this company. A lot of times people say it's hard to get on at this company, but I got on at this company and it almost seemed too good to be true. And I was full of anxiety, and I was driving, and I remember I was worshiping, but I was still like, oh God, I don't want to mess this up. I don't want to lose this job. And I remember God gave me a peace and a calm. And it was kind of like he said, chill out, chill out. You're going to be at this job for a while. And I know in my spirit, the Lord said, you're going to be at this job for over 5 years. Like, this is going to be it. This job is going to change your life. So I remember that as, so I had to throw that in there before I finish this story. So y'all put a pin right there. Y'all remember that, okay? When he gave me that piece that you're going to have this job for a while. So fast forward, got the job, call center, from call center, special projects, from special projects, contract load, business intelligence engineer. I remember thinking how grateful I was because, I didn't even have the degree to have the title, to have the role of a business intelligence engineer, but I knew the work and I did it well. And I had did it for years. And it was just something that, you know, um, God had blessed me with. And so, just like with this podcast, I jump in, I'm hands on, and I've learned things. Once I'm in it, I'm learning. I'm like a sponge. I suck it up and I'm going to learn. And so, August of 2022, I hit that 10-year mark. And I remember at this point, it wasn't the same. It was a little different. At the end of the day, I was getting stressed out. Like every Sunday night, I was tired. Like, oh, I got to go to work. And I worked from home. Like, you work from home and you dread going in and you dread having to log in from home. It has to be a problem, right? And so it just got to a point where it was being very stressful. Not so much the work itself, but just the leadership. The leadership, it was like, I don't know why I seem like I always get stuck around people that get a little power that abuse it. But, and I felt like that's the situation that I was in at that point. So, anyways, whatever. I'm working every day. I'm still trying to do my best, give my best. And so I told a friend of mine in August when I hit my 10-year, I said, I made it to 10 years. But one part of me was like, you got 10 more to go and you can retire. Then another part of me was like, it's going to be your last year at this company. That must have been the spirit part of me saying that this is going to be your last year because I lost my job October 7th, 2022. So, they said I can apply and come back to another position. But the night that it happened, it was almost like, it's like an adrenaline rush happens. I don't know. I can't even really explain what I felt after I got off the phone call with HR. By nighttime, I remember I went to bed and I woke up around 4 o'clock in the morning. And when I wake up for no reason at 4 o'clock in the morning, I've learned to know that this is God, like He want to speak to me. So what I normally do, I get up and I sit in my bed and I just be still. And so this particular morning, I sat up and I was in my bed and my mind wasn't so quiet because I feel that it was the enemy putting fear, pumping fear. So what I started to think about, like, did I just lose my job? What am I going to do? How am I going to pay my car payment? How am I going to pay my rent? Then I started thinking about, oh my God, am I going to go backwards? Am I going to go back to the struggle? And before I had worked in corporate America, am I going to have to go do this? Am I going to have to, like everything? I started thinking about like everything that could go wrong. They say 95% of working people's biggest fear is losing their job because it's almost like, what now? And like, it's one thing to have a job for a few months, but we're talking years. So for the last 10 years, this is all I've known is getting up, going to this job, having this job. And so I was like sitting in the bed and I was sitting in bed and I was just thinking. And like I said, all of this negative stuff was coming through my mind. And then I just got this peace in my mind that reminded me, what was the only thing stressing you out? And I had just told a friend, like, hey, girl, life is so good. But the only thing that stressed me out is this job and this supervisor. And so that peace that came over me was, you know what? You don't have that stress anymore. So for one, I started to feel a little bit more calm. Like, you know what? I don't. And God told me, like, look at it this way. It's time for a new beginning. You have an opportunity to create the life that you want for yourself. you have an opportunity to move forward into something new and different. It was almost like I was stuck. And God was showing me too, a lot of times we depend on these jobs and we say we love the Lord and everything's good in life. But what if you lose your job? What if you lose your source of income? Are you still going to be that, hey, God, I love you, Lord, and praise the Lord? A lot of times a lot of us are happy because we do have a job. We praise God and we thank God a lot for our jobs, and we're more dedicated to those jobs, and we're more committed to our jobs than we are to our relationship with God. We depend more on those jobs than we really do depend on God. If they tell us to do something that job, we're gonna do it. God can command you to do something and you know you should be doing something, and some of us are living sin and everything, and we just take grace for granted. And so God was showing me that this is an opportunity for one, for me to increase my faith. And I'm like, okay, well, God, hey, if this is what it is, let's go. And He gave me such a peace to not worry, to not stress, but to look at it in a positive way, to look at it at the fact that, to look at it in a way that, hey, this is an opportunity for better. This is an opportunity for you to really step out. Look how many things you have done. Then He also showed me how the Holy Spirit had already went before you. This time was ordained. It was going to happen. And He knows the plans for my life, and He knows the plans for my future. And they are not to harm me, but to give me hope. And so God was showing me, I sat there and like I said, He gave me this peace. He showed me how you are coming up on your year anniversary of being a life insurance agent. So you have that business to the side. And there's other things that I have. So where I have, it's a good thing that I do have more than one income, but this was like the big main income. So I needed to replace that. But God was showing me how I'm going to be okay. And then I started thinking about things like this podcast, that I had the vision for this podcast. And I was trying to do too much. I wanted to do this and I wanted to still, I was still working 9-hour shifts every day, sometimes 10-hour shifts, sometimes weekend shifts. Like it was taking so much of me and my energy. I would get off work, y'all. And when I tell y'all, I would be so exhausted, mentally drained from staring at the computer all day, analyzing things and doing all of this different work. I would be mentally drained a lot. And so God was just showing me, instead of worrying, this is a time where you say you know the Lord. And I'm so grateful that I do know God. And I'm so grateful that my relationship with Him is real. And so I'm sharing this episode, I'm sharing this testimony, not just to tell y'all my business, but so that we can look and see some of the things that I've talked about previously. I've talked about these things, having the courage to change, because I could have lost it. But in order to have the courage, you have to have confidence in God that He has that plan. I had to deal with that firsthand, ignoring the noise. I had to ignore the noise, especially this new venture that I'm on, this new thing that I'm on that's replacing that income. It's no joke. Let's just say that. And I will tell you guys, I just want you guys to know that I am okay. I am okay. I'm actually better than I've ever been in life. I have more peace than I've ever had. I met God in another way. Whew. I'm going to need my tissues. When I tell y'all, I met the Lord in a way that I have never, because I needed Him in a way that I had never needed Him. I needed Him to keep my mind in a positive place. I needed Him to remind me that His word is true. And it's easy to say you love the Lord. It's easy to say you're going to follow God and you're going to follow Christ, and that and this is why the call to duty, when I talked about Christians truly having a heart like Christ, not so much, yes, we need the heart like Christ so that we can be His disciples and do those things that He needs us to do. But we also need a heart like Christ when life tries to knock you down, so that you don't lose your joy. And you remember, this joy that I have, the world did not give, and the world cannot take it away. Okay? God has been so good to me. I have not missed a beat. My bills have been paid. I actually am bringing in more money than I was working that 10-hour shift. He has been a provider. He has been a way maker. And so I'm so grateful that everything worked out. The podcast, the vision for the podcast, being able to start and launch the podcast a month after I lost my job. I could have sat back and been depressed, but I'm so grateful that I have a relationship with God and I know Him for real. I have been through enough to have to know Him. I have the desperation to want the relationship, to need the relationship with Christ. And so this situation, I was tried. I felt like God was testing me. And He showed me, if you could trust me through this, if you can just believe, like I said, the last episode, I told y'all all of this was for my life. That last episode, it's not happening to you, it is happening for you. It was happening for me because, for one, this situation, it kind of forced me to even, discover a new and better version of myself. I had to go forward. And so I had to discover a new version, a more determined version of myself, a version that could tell myself that, any vision that God has given me, that it can truly happen, but I have to put in the work. I couldn't do the same things. I couldn't spend my time the same way. I could no longer waste my time talking to people that was not on the same page. A lot of people didn't even know what I was going through because I didn't need anybody feeling sorry for me. I didn't need anybody saying, "Oh my God, what are you gonna do?" Like, if I would have lost my job, I'd have lost it right now. I had a friend tell me that he knew some people that lost their job and everybody was panicking, like in that season, like at the end of the year last year. And I couldn't be around that. I had to be around people that trusted God. I had to be around go-getters. I had to be around entrepreneurs, people that was out here getting money. Like, because I knew that that was the world I was going into. Because I don't want to go back into that world where I'm being controlled and I'm jumping every time an email coming through. Am I in trouble? Oh my God, what's going on? Having to um, slave all these hours of the day. God showed me that I have too much creativity on the inside of me. And I have stepped into a new business venture and I'm excited about it. Um, it is definitely something that I could see myself doing, something that I could pass down to my children, and it is lucrative. But I'm not going to tell y'all about it yet. Y'all got to come back to season 2 to hear all of that, to hear about what I'm doing and how I'm surviving and how I'm over here smiling still and how I've been able to still eat and pay my bills. Like, y'all got to come back for the second part of that. And I'll share that with you guys in season 2. So I'm definitely going to leave you with a cliffhanger on that. But I just wanted to say, for the last 3 years, your girl has been through it. I had to find myself again. I had to remember my strength. So God knew what was best for me. And this is what I love about God. And this is why I want everybody to seek Him, because He knows His children and He knew what I needed before I knew. He knew that God saw the stress. And when I tell you guys, I was stressing out, and I'm a person that, like, regardless of my journey and all of the things that I've been through, because it has not been easy. I've always been out here grinding, working hard, trying to just make it. And I've been pretty much doing it on my own. But when I tell you, I've never had high blood pressure. So I'm not really a person that gets that stressed out, to the point where, like, I get high blood pressure and things like that. But I was getting very close to it at that job. I appreciated when I had it. But, you know, for some people, it's perfect for them. It works for their lives. It works for their personality, but it was survival for me. And God was showing me, if you have the courage to change, you will see that you are not getting ready to live in survivor mode anymore. You are going to walk out, but you have to be able to do some things differently. You have to change your routine. You have to change up some habits. You have to change, most importantly, your mindset, and know that you can do it, and know that you can put in those hard hours. So yes, I work hard right now, but I do it for myself. Nothing like putting in that work for your own self, right? And so that is what has been going on with me while doing this podcast. Like, I've been holding on, doing this podcast, and still trying to be strong, still trying to have faith in God, still trying to believe God, still not trying to go backwards and get sad and depressed and think, the worst of things. Like, I've been pushing through all of that while still grieving and all of that. But I was able to do it, and I was able to smile and know I do not look like what I've been going through. And I never look like what I'm going through. And people say, you make it look easy. I don't make it look easy. I just know where my help comes from. And so when I tell y'all about God, I don't want to be one of those people that's just trying to just tell y'all about God just to be talking. I tell y'all about him because I know too much about him. And he is so real. He is so real. And when I tell you, when you have that relationship, this is why I push relationship over religion, because if I did not have that relationship, I would have panicked. I wouldn't have heard him in the midnight hour when he gave me that peace. And I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be able to enjoy my life and meditate now. And, this is a good life. It's a good world. And it's a whole world out here of people, entrepreneurs. And I'm so happy to be a part of that world now, being able to meet up for lunch and do things like that. I don't have to dread getting up on Monday mornings. Mondays, I actually love Monday mornings now, you know. And so I will share with you guys, and also the way that I have been able to survive. That's a whole nother testimony in itself. So make sure you guys tune in for season 2. I thank each and every one of you for all of your support. Continue to please pray for me as I go forward, trying to just do what God has called me to do in this world while still trying to maintain and take care of my children and take care of myself and take care of my mind and just continue to grow as we all grow together. We are going to discover a new and better version of ourselves. We are not going to allow the cares of this world to consume our minds. We are going to continue to hold on to God because that hand is unchanging. Listen, he is a good God. He is a real God, and I know him, and he keeps his word. He showed me that he is a promise keeper. He is a way maker, and I am just so grateful that I know him. And I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. And I thank you guys for tuning in to season 1. If you've missed the episode, make sure you go and make sure you download. Thank you for supporting. And for those of you that's watching on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any episodes. I thank you guys for tuning in to season 1, our final episode, episode 8. Until next time.